All right, thank you everyone for joining us today to see how sales analytics can drive behaviors and results. My name is Alex Ulrich. I'm the sales director in our financial services vertical for Australia and New Zealand. Research is telling us that businesses have large amounts of data, but everyone from C-level executives through to relationship managers, advisors, and agents either don't have the necessary tools or that their current processes are too cumbersome and time-consuming to make sense of it. Before we proceed, I just want to remind everyone that Salesforce is a publicly traded company. We recommend everyone make purchasing decisions based on generally available products. All right, just to give everyone a quick background on what we're going to cover today. We'll spend a bit of time up front hearing from Miller Heiman about what they're seeing before we move into the Salesforce Analytics solution and the actual product demonstration. So we're joined here by Michael Lowe, Lead Solution Engineer for Salesforce Analytics APAC, and Martin Sparks, Managing Director of leading sales and performance company, Miller Heiman. So I'd like to start by handing over to you, Martin, to introduce yourself and give us a bit of background on Miller Heiman.
Thanks, Alex. So just quickly, a very brief intro to myself. I'm the Managing Director of Miller Heiman Group. I've been with the organisation for 8 years, and I actually began in the role of sales operations, and in my previous life to MHG I was selling CRMs, not Salesforce.com I have to admit, but I was selling CRMs. But I'm absolutely passionate about sales analytics and big data, and if I must admit, I'm one of those sad individuals who actually enjoys working with pivot tables. We are now a Salesforce.com house and enjoying that migration at the moment, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here. Just to give you a little bit of background into how MHI Global has evolved recently. There's a good chance you already know us from the Miller Heiman name. It's one of the most well-known, respected brands in the sales industry. But what you may not know is how we have reinvented ourselves to really help you sell more and service your clients better. We have a proud legacy which includes the brands of Achieve Global, Huffweight, Channel Enablers, CSO Insights, and you've probably heard of solutions like spin selling, strategic selling, and professional selling skills. But innovation rules business today, which is why many of you are on the call. As the newly formed Miller Heiman Group, we have new solutions, greater research, and technology offerings to help you rethink how you are selling and servicing your customers. In fact, we've got 4,000 customers of these combined companies today around the world, and many of them are in the financial industry, which I know many of you have come from to join the call today. So we'll be placing particular emphasis on that. Just quickly, as we have evolved, we have a very new offering to the market for our Be Ready solutions, and there's 6 distinct areas that we work in. Starting at 9 o'clock there on the left-hand side, Talent Ready is really how you assess, retain, and recruit top performers. And then we move to Sales Ready, helping organisations get scale with consistent sales methodology and skills in B2B and B2C environments. Then we've got the other side of the coin in Service Ready. Once you've won business, how do you keep it? How do you drive customer satisfaction, loyalty, and NPS? Bottom right corner, Learner Ready. We've invested millions developing technology solutions to aid the enablement of sales and service transformation. And finally, Insight and Strategy Ready, the research, data, and strategy behind world-class sales and service organisations. As one great leader said, without data, you are just another person with an opinion. And that is exactly where we are going to head to now with some insights to sales analytics. So of the thousands of data points from our annual study that we do on a yearly basis, there are 2 that I felt most relevant for our discussion today. The first one is we use sales analytics to measure and predict sales performance. The results of the last survey, 2016 results, 94% of world-class performers are saying that they're using analytics to aid their sales performance. What's staggering is just 25% of all respondents are actually using this effectively and using this well. I think what would be really great to do now is we're just going to attempt a live poll just to see how the participants actually compare to this data point? So you should see on your screen now a quick question. Do you use sales analytics to measure and predict sales performance? So please click yes or no. I'll give you 30 seconds or so to do that. We've got the results coming in. Great. We've had a huge amount participate in that survey, and interesting results. So we have a smart bunch on the line here with 56% of you using analytics, which is fantastic, and we'll be interested to hear how some of you are doing that probably later in the call when we have questions and answers. So on to the next data point. Another one I felt really relevant was, do you and your sales team feel challenged by the amount of data available and time it takes to research a prospect? The results here from the 2016 study, hang on, will come up shortly. Incredible, 82% are really saying that they are overwhelmed with the amount of data available to them and it's a real challenge to use. How do we find time as sellers to utilize this information, and why should we find time? These are the questions that people are asking themselves.
Thanks, Martin. Really appreciate that. Those are really interesting insights, especially this last survey in 2016. So you're saying that 94% of world-class salespeople are using sales analytics. Can you help us out and tell us what defines world-class?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Great question. We've been researching sales best practice annually for 13 years now and have over 30,000 respondents from B2B complex selling environments. We have found that those who respond positively to the sales behaviours we ask outperform the other respondents by 20% in metrics such as quota attainment, new account acquisition, and customer growth. So there's a real benefit to using these behaviours. The use of sales analytics has only been included in the survey over the past few years. The number of world-class respondents 2 years ago using sales analytics was 69%. So there's been an incredible growth in this behaviour and the use of technology.
So the other statistic you mentioned was that 82% of those surveyed felt challenged by the volume of data available and how to actually use that to prospect. What is this telling us?
Big data is really big data. Our research shows people are clearly overwhelmed by the volume of data available to them, as salespeople, but also as sales leaders. We're being flooded by marketing automation systems that's providing us with lead scores, with white space to target. We've got CRMs being linked to OneSource, LinkedIn, you've got the Growth of Sales Navigator. Many people simply don't have the time or even the acumen to sort through this data and the technology. But the successful organisations, they're managing to decipher through this and provide sales insights, not only to their salespeople, but also their customers.
I've got to be honest, you're making it sound really difficult out there.
Yeah, it is tough. It is tough, and we shouldn't hide behind that. I mean, everyone's probably heard this before. Selling is getting harder, buyers are better informed, more buyers are involved, buying decisions are going higher, and they're taking much longer. We all know this. Our research shows that win rates of forecasted deals is just 45.8%. That means as a sales leader that there's more of a chance of calling the toss of a coin than winning a forecasted deal. It's even less than the chance of winning at craps in Las Vegas. So where should you be putting your money? Sales analytics can help us improve those odds. We have to get smarter. We have to transform. Sales transformation and sales enablement is the new differentiator for organisations. Our research shows using technology and a formal sales enablement can improve win rate for forecasted deals by up to 20%. So it's pretty compelling.
So in terms of your client base and talking about analytics, sales analytics, how do you see your clients using sales analytics?
Yeah, they're using it in lots of different ways, but what they are doing is they're putting the science into the art of selling. It's not just a craft. One way of looking at sales analytics is to break it down into two groups: business analytics and opportunity analytics. Business analytics is where you use data to focus on the right prospects you want to target and work with. Create real prospects rather than just another suspect. These analytics can be driven by the type of industry, trends, risk profiles, growth markets, whether they're financially stable, etc., etc. They're very, very common in business today. Where I think customers are getting more clever is in opportunity analytics. They know why they win. They create scorecards. They create analytics around why they win to prompt the right selling behaviours. They can use these scorecards as leading indicators to drive coaching and forecasting of opportunities. For example, and this isn't rocket science, but Miller Heiman Group, and I'm sure people on the call are very aware of this, we talk a lot about the economic buying influences. This is ultimately the final decision maker in the buying process. They're either going to sign off on the contract or can veto a contract at any time. It can often be unknown. But when you do know this person, know who they are, have access to them, and understand the business result they're looking for, you have a significantly greater chance of winning that piece of business. So a very simple analytic our customers monitor is how many opportunities do we have with and without an economic buying influence, which allows leaders then to coach and focus on those opportunities.
Right, okay. So let's talk a little bit more specifically around the finance industry. How does this differ to other sectors?
Yeah, it's a tough one, Alex. The use of analytics obviously applies across all industries. And to be honest, we've actually seen the finance industry being ahead of the curve because they are used to working with data, incredible amount of data, and they also have huge resources to support this. I guess what differs is they do need to consider risk, they need to consider compliance far more with their selling. However, years ago we've seen the banking world using heat maps and analytics to drive share of wallet. If I'm totally honest, I actually think other industries can learn from them as a team, and that's exactly what we're going to share today with the case study that you have for us.
Appreciate that, Martin. Thank you very much for that. Martin will be available for Q&A following the demonstration. At that point, we'll open up you can actually ask questions within the GoToWebinar console. But let's move on now to Mike Lowe. Mike, what is Salesforce doing to address these business issues that Miller Heiman is talking about?
Absolutely. Thanks, Alex. Well, Salesforce launched Wave, which is Salesforce's analytics platform for Salesforce customers. And really, before we get into Wave, a lot of people talk about analytics, and just rightly, Martin sort of put it into those two camps. And it really comes down to when I think about how do I consume data, there's massive amount of information out there. How do I filter through it? How do I access that information? How do I enable the end consumer to get that data? And that's how I generate data. And it's really exciting to see the launch of a whole new product range coming at Dreamforce next week, where we'll be launching Einstein. And that's really about how we generate data. How do you generate things like scorecards, predictive intelligence, and generate it? And Wave really answers, how do I consume that data? How do I take all that data, bring it together, and turn it into something meaningful that people can consume? Now with Wave, we make that available to our Sales Cloud customers or Service Cloud customers really easily. We focus to make this as simple as clicking a button to get started, because probably the biggest challenge we see is people out there and how do they get started? How much investment do they need to put in business analysts and people to bring this together? So especially for our small business customers out there, they want something that's quick and easy to go and start that. So we've launched a best practice templates and KPIs so that if you're using the standard sales processes within Salesforce and set up, that you can get running that in about 10 minutes, which is really cool. The next area it focuses on is also trending. What's moving in the pipeline? Once you've got a CRM and you start getting this information, what do I do with it? How do I track my pipeline? What are changing and how can I easily access that? And I think for me, the one thing that really sets the way Salesforce is approaching analytics from everyone else out there in the market is if I have to move to another system, if I have to go and get into my BI platform and move out of my focus around the customer, one, I'm going to lose a lot of people at that point. Two, what do I do once I get that insight? How can I actually go and take action? How can I do anything? It's very interesting at Gartner when all the major BI platforms presenting, they all stood up and said, oh, you make these amazing dashboards, and then somebody comes out into a meeting, and a business analyst, and they make a decision in a meeting. And that's crazy for Salesforce, because Wave Analytics is now absolutely core to the Salesforce platform, and it provides instance actionability directly inside Wave, which is really awesome. Now, the problem we want to address is really about, like I said, this is hard. Actually, a lot of people out there are concerned about that inconsistency in data. What's Martin? Martin, you talked a lot about this in your presentation around people actually finding it pretty tough out there. And half the people can't even just drill into data and just actually drill into that information, the reports that they're consuming, which ultimately means that most people aren't able to access and do this themselves. They actually rely on other people to build reports, and that's expensive. It's pretty hard to find a report analyst that's any good that's going to provide insights to your business for less than around 6 figures. So that's an incredibly expensive resource to have to maintain just to be doing reports for other people. Why can't they help themselves? And this is what we've really found. Sales reps are just wasting time. They're embedded in spreadsheets. They don't know what's worked in the past. Think of all these new sales reps that come on board and have to take over someone else's accounts. All that information that they had about that's completely gone. It's buried in spreadsheets, it's buried in the email, the contact history. How do they know what the history was? They're not sure who to launch for. Who are the top performers? How do I know from their best? How do I actually understand, and as a sales manager, start to pair up my best people to learn from each other? And what deals should we focus on? And this is where things like Einstein come up and be really interesting, but just simple things today like win rates. What's my closure rate for that? What's happening? Who's responding to emails and all this data generated from EDM? And quite simply, people just can't find that information. And for us, this is what we've really focused Wave on, to really give you that time back. Not only not have to go and invest in a very expensive resource to build a bunch of reports and a solution for you, but for our customers to get that time back. So, how do you do that? How can you actually empower a challenge which for decades has been elusive to everyone? So it sounds like, given we've sort of advertised this as a financial services and the response we had to Martin's earlier question, finance have been using data for a while, we're ahead of the curve. So it'd be interesting to take a quick poll. What tools are you using today? Are you not using anything? Are you just using sort of spreadsheets? Have you actually already invested in a BI platform that's outside, or are you just using sort of operational CRM reports in your platform? It'd be really interesting to come
do you just want to explain what a BI platform is to those who may not know? Absolutely.
So people who invested in something specifically around data that are going in there, and they're very expensive, big Goliath things normally, from the age-old operational reporting systems like Cognos and Siebel and Big Data, but now to some of the more agile platforms that people are investing in. So we've had about half of you guys vote, so no one's really started to look at BI. A lot of people using spreadsheets, and the other half really focused around CRM reports. That's really interesting. Let's get a few more coming in. Awesome. So that's a really interesting outcome. No one's actually looking at a dedicated BI platform out there. It's very interesting. And this, for people that are currently using just operational reports and CRM and spreadsheets, Wave is incredibly fast to enable you to do this. And just to give you an idea, there's small customers that are really accelerating with Wave, and there is larger ones. But I want to talk to you a little bit about one of our larger customers and how they've just been able to, all these big BI platforms they probably have every BI platform under the sun. So if you look at National Australia Bank, they recently have gone live with Wave across one of their teams, and they've seen an immediately increase in the productivity of those teams. We talk about what does it mean if you give a third of the people the time back. Had great success. These guys actually enabled relationship managers to have data-driven conversations with customers. So they're actually able to use all that data and pull and use Wave to connect it so they can actually find out which conversations and actually use it to help find the right people to connect with and actually to call. And what they've actually seen is an immediate productivity gain for those people that use Wave on a regular basis. And this is the other really exciting, because Salesforce also provides a product called Shield. It enables you to understand adoption, enables you to understand how people are actually using Salesforce, as well as providing you industry best practices for protection of your data. Now, what they actually saw using those Shield usage statistics is the people that were using Wave the most led to higher productivity performance. And that's amazing, because that actually proves the ROI right there. So much so, they've now actually made it part of their KPIs for their team. Okay, I'm sure you're all itching to actually see what is Wave, what does this look like. I know, because great partnership with Miller Heiman, we have many new people new to Salesforce as well. So
Mike, just before you jump into the demonstration, just a quick reminder to everybody, we will have time for Q&A after the demonstration. The fastest, easiest way to get your questions in is through the GoToWebinar console. So please start adding your questions now, and we'll get to as many of them as we can post the demonstration. All right, Mike, are we ready to go?
Yep, we're just about to cue this up. Now, I'm actually going to be showing you the latest version of Salesforce, and one thing what some of my customers might know, and a very interesting fact, there is only one version of Salesforce. Every single customer is always on the same version, with 3 amazing upgrades every year that you get included in your subscription price, and we guarantee that no customization or things break inside that org. So I'm now here on the fresh, new-looking home screen of Salesforce, and we'll maybe just talk about some of the things of Salesforce as CRM and a productivity tool, and get through how we're actually using analytics and embedding it directly inside Salesforce. So as a sales rep, I'm going to focus in here. I'm going to have all my key stuff that I need on my home screen. I'm going to have key assistant around what opportunities are closing in the next 30 days, or what things I need to do activity on. But most importantly, where I'm actually in my performance, where am I in my sales cycle. I can actually set different budgets and targets in there, and then see some of the other sort of things, like what tasks do I have upcoming, recent records, everything that I've got going in there. Now, in terms of CRM, one thing being a salesperson, especially managing, I need to manage my pipeline. An exciting thing about Salesforce is it supports every single industry across the planet. And not just financial services, but everyone. And everyone's using the same platform. And that's because Salesforce is incredibly flexible to customize that to your own business process. So one of the things that I do as a sales rep a lot is I want to know what's going on my pipeline. And seeing this in just a list like this is kind of difficult for me to understand. Now, with our latest release CRM, I can actually change that and actually look at this from a different view. So we can actually go and say, well, let's have a look at what's actually closing next month. And now I can actually have this in what we call our Kanban board. So it's really easy to understand all the applications and deals that I currently have in the pipeline, where they're up to, what's going on. And especially if I'm reaching out to maybe one of my brokers or people I'm dealing with or businesses I'm connecting with, and I notice that we're progressing something along, I can easily understand and move that along. So I don't have to go in and click a button and change stuff, really making it easy to capture information and do it in. Now, embedded inside Salesforce across everywhere is basic analytics. So be able to see cool things such as where are we by stage, what are the top stages my pipeline is, where am I by this year, this fiscal period. So all these ability to embed these critical things in the screens that I use and I go into every day. Now, maybe if we jump into an opportunity, actually see, it also gives me that guidance for how to proceed that opportunity through the different stages. And this is where Miller Heiman actually provides great support and advice through our App Exchange to actually help people work on that sales process, help you define what your sales process should be, because like I mentioned, Salesforce is a very customizable system. It's not a fixed thing you buy out of the box and just start using it. It's very easy to configure it. And one of the first things that you do is figure out, well, what's our sales process? Today, I'm in here of an assurance broker dealing with lots of other mortgage brokers out in the industry, and I'm looking for them to get applications come through their pipeline and engage with them. So it's very important for me to keep in contact with them, know where we're up to, and drive that through my sales pipeline. Really important. I also have all the other components here to really understand what's going on. Now, Salesforce is incredibly great as an application to manage what we call these transactions. So what's my customer engagement and cases coming through from my customers? Also manage that sales pipeline. Out of the box, you get dashboards. You get what we call operational reports, which it sounds like a lot of you guys are using out there today. Operational reporting is very powerful for every line of business to understand what's going on. And it's great to see what's happening today, what's happening now, where are we going. But it's a very static kind of view of that information. Why people are investing in BI platforms is to have a deeper, richer experience, to make it easier to drill into that information. So let's jump back into our opportunity and actually look at how I can actually understand where I'm trying to progress that opportunity, more about what's happening with the account. Now, opportunity space, I've got to have all the activity of that's going on with the customer. I've got what's happening in the next steps, what's the activity, because I've got really easy ways to have that information surface to me. It becomes really important for me to see that information and have it there. Now, this is where Wave gets interesting, because now with Wave, we make it really simple to not just bring data in from other systems, but also bring all the information to bear that's in Salesforce together. So when I click on the Details tab, what I can actually do now is I've got all my information around what's going on, but now I can actually have all of the information, and this can be any metrics I need, so instantly I can see everything about this account. So in this one little embedded dashboard now on the account page, I can see everything. I see the entire history of all time for this account. But the best thing is, it's interactive. So if I want to see this by month, I simply click month. And now instantly, in less than a second, it refreshes and makes this data interactive. Now, I mentioned we have operational dashboards and reports, and they're great for just where I am now, where I am today. But I can't interact with them. I can't drill in at the speed of thought. So if I want to see number of deals, you can see more activity going across there. What's the average price? Are we going up with this broker? Are we seeing better referrals come through? What channels from my marketing sources are actually driving it and how that's been going? So I can now actually have a look and see, has marketing events been driving that pipeline? Has it been buying a number of deals? Has it been driving significant dollars in deals? So in maybe about 5 or 10 seconds, and this is just an example, you can embed any information on here from any source, whether that's Salesforce, external back-end transactional processing systems, and go on. And we can take it further. The one thing that I love about the new Lightning platform in there, because you can absolutely embed that dashboard component if today you're using Classic. One thing I absolutely love about it is I can now have tabs. And this means I can take this idea of embedding data to a new level, and I can actually have all this information embedded directly across my screen and see everything that I need to in the one spot. Now, what this enables me to do is have everything that we have there on there. Now, as we go and drive into some of these different data and metrics, it's very important to be able to know what's actually happening and going on. Now, bear with me a second. My screen's dropped down. Now, one of those things that actually occurs is, okay, I can see that information, I've got that dashboard, but how do I, as an end business user, answer my own question? How do I drill into this data and ask a different question? And actually, one of the things that Wave was actually designed for was exactly that. So when we originally purchased the core product that is Wave and embedded it directly in our CRM, this is the one use case that people are using for, and it's how do I answer second and third level questions. So it's great you built this dashboard, this widget, I've got this report, but how do I actually able to go and answer my own questions? And with a simple click, I can actually go out and explore into what we call the whole Wave platform. So I can really go and see that data and drill in and ask different questions. Being here, I can hit explore. Once you give people access to data, they start to answer their own questions. They can answer and say, well, I want to see this, by year and then by month. I want to see this, how this looks over a week. I want to look at all deals, not just ones that are closing. I want to group this by something a bit different. I want to be able to go and see this maybe by different industries that we're in. I might want to actually filter in and just focus on one specific industry. And I can easily go and do that right from in here. So it's not enough just to go and have an amazing suite of dashboards, reports, and things out there. I need to actually enable people to answer their own questions. And this is where the sales reps were really changing the game. But unfortunately, I don't spend all my time sitting in my office. I'm actually out there on the road working and doing business. And because we're cloud and we're API first, not only is this technology amazing on the desktop, I can actually take it with me on the mobile phone and have it wherever I am. So let's just jump over to my mobile phone and show you what this looks like. Okay, so with Salesforce, I have access to a Wave Analytics app. You can also embed these analytics just like I have inside Salesforce in our mobile app as well. Now, just clicking on here, I can actually go in and see my most recent dashboards and jump up. Now, one of the most critical things that I do when I'm as a sales rep looking to connect with these businesses is around about, and Martin talked about this a lot, how do I take all this big amount of data of lists and people I connect with? How do I take all this information about marketing information and who's on email campaigns and make it usable? What happens if I could do that just on my mobile phone? So right here what I have is I have all the companies, all our prospect lists across Salesforce. And I've actually mashed that up with some ABS data. So actually now I know where they are. So now if I happen to be in a certain area or out there, I can maybe focus and do a bit of prospecting while I'm in the road and become a lot more productive out there. So we're in the sort of finance one, so let's jump in and finance. You'll notice that I just tapped on it and it's gone and queried back to the cloud, the database, in under a second, and now gives me this information. So now I can look across different areas. Well, we're in Sydney today, so maybe let's go and focus on the Sydney area, on the city in the south. I can actually filter down. So now we're down to about 2,500 companies. I don't think I'm going to be going after 200,000 employee type companies. That's not really who I want to go and prospect to. Maybe some of these smaller ones, and maybe in investment advice. Now you can see that just by having this data and making it easy to explore, I can now drill down to that actual single record. Now, being Salesforce, I can take it one step further. Now I got down to one company that I actually want to connect with. Wouldn't it be great if I could actually just hit open and go and open that record directly inside Salesforce? So just with one single tap on a record, now I'm actually in and have the full power of my CRM. Now I can look at all those details on the mobile phone wherever I am. I have access now to go and create a task, log a call, maybe put an event that I dropped in. So again, how do I make it super simple to be able to connect and put those activities in and consume data wherever I am? Really simple, really powerful Wave. And I'm sure Alex and team, if any of you are interested in Salesforce, would love to speak to you more about what Salesforce can do in business. But we want to focus on analytics today. So maybe we'll switch gears while we're still on the mobile and have a look what this kind of looks like from a manager's point of view. Now, as a manager, I'm not too interested in that granularity of detail. I want the big picture. I want to be able to see what's happening across all my business. And I don't want to be stuck in the weeds. I don't want to be down there in the depths of the CRM in doing records. I just want to get a high view, what's going on, what's our close rate, where are we at, where do I need to focus to make a difference. Now, again, with SalesWave, we give execs the perfect tool to be able to see exactly where they are across their entire business through this awesome thing. So we want to see year-to-date performance. So we've done great for the quarter, we hit 100%. Business review, we've got a lot out there in terms of one, we're about 88%, with 17% up on last year. Again, really simple way to consume this kind of metric data and drill down to it. Now, I also want to go a bit deeper and review my business and drill in a bit more. This is great. We can actually go in, I can see the numbers. And just the same experience I had on the desktop as an individual rep looking at one account, Wave scales to massive amount of data and gives you this huge amount of processing power. So if I click month, and I quickly go and see how all my things go across months. And again, I want to see dollars, averages, really any metric that you want to define, you can make it. You can change the period in terms of when you wanted to see that information. But again, a bit more than that. Mobile, you don't have the full desktop, so give you little pages to let you drill in a little bit further. So maybe you want to focus just on our Australian accounts and have a look how that's going. And now everything has changed. It's now focused just purely on the accounts that I actually have. Maybe I want to see it by industry. Maybe I want to drill in a bit further. Awesome. And now, exactly the same thing. Now we're down to financial services. I want to go in there. Again, maybe I want to ask that second or third level question myself. And maybe I want to drill in to that and see what account is that. And go, it's United Partners Bondi. Maybe I want to go reach out. Maybe that's critical to me hitting my target as a sales leader. Now, one thing sales leaders hate is getting into the weeds. But what they love is when they can make a difference and able to drill down and focus exactly where they can make a difference, they can do it at that point. And again, with Salesforce, that's very easy to do because this isn't a separate BI platform. This is seamlessly integrated into Salesforce. So with one single tap there, I can drill in, get into, and now take action on this account. So we need this deal to close for us to hit that 80% and get it out. So maybe we're going to go collaborate across with our team to do that.
So Mike, we do have a question coming in, and it's good timing with what we've just been talking about and how Wave is compares to BI platforms. I mean, how would you say that Wave is different from traditional business intelligence platforms?
Absolutely, that's a great question coming out there, and then we saw in the respondents not a lot of people really using them because they're usually big, scary things, and really the way I kind of see the difference is BI platforms are designed for BI analysts. They're really designed, and they're very powerful at that. They help them answer very important questions. They help them do research into things, but they're not really great for everyone else. You know, everyone talks about insight to action these days. Everyone's talking about business users need to be empowered. When we've taken it, that's our only focus. We actually don't really provide a platform for a BI analyst. In fact, we're not really interested in doing that because there's so many tools out there, and the expectations, if you design a BI platform mainly for BI analysts to buy, the rest of us are not really going to be used to it. The rest of us need simple interactivity with our data, and more importantly, we need it to drive an action and tie to an outcome.
So we have another question that's come in. You know, it looks like, and this is from a current Salesforce customer, it looks, you know, like Wave is easy to set up. You know, you said it's easy to set up, but I mean, just how easy is it? I mean, if you want to do some of these complex reports,
sure.
You know, what does that actual process look like?
Awesome. Well, that's a good segue. So really, we have a really focused way to deliver this, and this is our crystal clear focus now at Dreamforce, and our customers are going to be hearing a lot about this. We're focusing on pushing apps to get people started really quickly. Pre-built templates for sales, pre-built template for service. Now for people using our Pardot B2B marketing app, we're launching a pre-built app to get them the framework. So a lot of our customers really struggle, where do I start? And for us, that's a really good point. So we've designed apps for every line of those businesses across sales, service, marketing, even IT. IT love this because if you have event monitoring, you get Wave built in to be able to see that usage and adoption across and actually see how people are using it. Now, that's great to get started, but what now we're also launching at Dreamforce is amazing ways to easily customize those apps yourself and now move what was around about 60-40 point and click to build a lot of what we saw today. It'll now be 100% point and click to drive a lot of the types of interactions we've had looked at today. Right. So that includes point and click on that mobile device layout, not having to do kind of HTML style layouts. It's now all point and click. A really awesome new data set designer, so actually bringing those data sets together becomes a much more easy to connect and join. And that's not just data from Salesforce, that's how we bring external data in as well.
So we have another question from the audience, another existing Salesforce customer. The question is that they're on Financial Services Cloud. Does Wave handle the client household data model? So I guess there's two components to that. So I think there's, can you talk a little bit about, I guess, Wave and specifically that data model, but also how Wave works just generally with the any customized version of Salesforce?
So this is a really cool thing about Wave. It gives you this additional data store to do whatever you want. It can handle any data model type, essentially, because Salesforce itself is this very transactional model with a relational database, and it brings in rows. Salesforce is what we call a columnar data store. That's what gives it that responsivity that we have. Now, for a financial services customer, probably the big reveal, this is definitely one of those forward-looking statements, but stay tuned for Dreamforce. You'll see there might be another app specifically being released for you at Dreamforce to get you started, but absolutely you could start that journey today.
So I guess just to be specific on that question, the answer is yes, that Wave can handle client household.
So really when I think about client household and when you do it, it's really about how I join data together. And the most simple way I think about it when I'm trying to design the data that I want to surface in Wave is, and this is where I don't want to get too much technical, I'm happy to follow up, but it's really, I think of it like how I join stuff in Excel. I do a lookup and I bring two sheets together and I do another one. It's very painful. Essentially what Wave does, you say what objects you want to bring into Salesforce. You say what objects you want to bring that might be external CSV data loads that you might have brought in from one of your integration providers. And you stitch them together. And you actually saw in that previous slide on the right there, you can start to see the new data set designer that's coming in the Winter 17 release. But literally where I say, this is the join key between this table and this table, I want to see it. The important thing about making it easy to explore data is that I give people the right dimensions they want to search for. I don't give them every field under the sun. That doesn't make sense. That makes it not usable. I need to think about what insights do I need to see and make it really easy for my people to conceive that. And that's what Wave enables to do.
All right.
There's probably just one little thing I'll add to that. One of the standard things, Salesforce being a relational data model, is it only lets you build dashboard and reports out of the box with 3 objects. So certainly when you have this sort of house contact model, other one, you now go to like 4 objects, 5, 6, 10. With Wave, you can actually stitch together as many as you like. You can go 20, you can go 30, you can go 5 or 6. It's really easy to build the data set that you want.
All right, we have another question that's come through. This one, Martin, I think is probably best suited for you to take. But the question is, how does Miller Heiman integrate with Salesforce and Wave?
Okay, yeah, I'll take that. So Miller Heiman Group does have a number of tools that you can see on the app site, where you can actually download directly. I think you have to come directly to MHI Group to access them. But we have tools that that integrate with our sales process. The tool's called Sales Access Manager. We also have some new tools which were released in the last couple of years. One's the Funnel Scorecard, which is very much an analytics tool, which looks at opportunity and business analytics. And then we have a visual funnel tool called Sales Process Funnel. In terms of Wave, this is really exciting new technology, and Wave's actually, it's the first time I've seen it in the last couple of weeks, and I can see endless ways how, if the Miller Heiman Group's the data and our vernacular and language is in the CRM. You know, putting that towards those dashboards were incredible, so that you can see
it'd be fantastic.
senior economic buying influences of the opportunities and how many coaches you have. It'd just be incredible.
So Marlon, the Miller Heiman Group app, I mean, I've played around this a while ago and I've actually seen some, you know, I've actually worked with some of those critical financial services firms that you had up earlier. So that actually provides you the process and stuff out of the box, that doesn't it, which helps you with that data, but it also has some other objects and things in there too.
Yes, yeah. It's got, I mean, it links to your, it's mobile compatible as well, so you can use it on your smart devices.
Yeah, absolutely. Because from Wave's point of view, and I think just following up on one of the questions we got online about custom objects, is this is the fascinating thing with Wave now, is you can bring together, you know, App Exchange apps, Salesforce apps, any data on Salesforce, and we don't care whether it's a custom object or an internal one, a custom field. But I think the sort of things now with Lightning as well, that process that Miller Heiman brings about thinking about what is my sales process, again, you know, we didn't dive into it, but you can actually put those controls to make sure the right fields are filled out at the right point and make it really easy.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, I mean, the Lightning's really made it, you know, so much more user-friendly on the tablet devices and so forth. It's made it so much easier to use.
I think my favourite thing about the whole of Lightning, what it's done, it's made the activities really come to the surface. It now makes it so much easier to add activity data. I think you're talking about in the interview at the beginning about how do I know who I'm engaged with? And then that's always been the bugbear of every sales rep, how do I add activity? Now with Wave, they don't have that other way now to actually visualize that data and see where they're engaged better, actually help it. So with Lightning, it's really exciting to see activities coming right to the forefront, especially with other things like Inbox and Salesforce Einstein. Those activities are going to be crucial to driving the next wave of predictive analytics to understand what are the right activities you're doing. Because if you're not encouraging your teams to really get focused on logging the emails, putting in your activities, it's going to be very hard for our future AI tools to really suggest what the best next action is. So that's really exciting.
So we actually have a question that's come in from the audience just specifically around this. So how can you use Wave and Einstein for predictive analytics? And what this person wants to know specifically around customer churn.
So again, this is where we kind of get in. So specifically predictive analytics, that's purely in the Einstein. That's about how do we generate data. And I can't talk too much about that. There's a lot going to be revealed in roadmap. That's definitely a very forward-looking statement. We can talk about Wave, though, in terms of the Wave analytics and how that does. So, you know, things about churn and predicting, we're actually now having some more other things launching at Dreamforce, like Predictive Wave, to add these things in here. But usually the first thing that's the most important is how do people consume the information to know what's the reason why customers are churning. Like, why are we wanting to build reports on the ivory tower to go out and the rest of it? You know, how do we connect people to that core data just to say, let's log the reason why people are churning and give that data back out to people to drive stuff is really what we're seeing.
I think, I mean, customer churn's a whole new subject. We've done a lot of research in churn recently, and it's quite amazing now that it's 70% of people will leave a brand or leave an organisation after no more than 3 bad experiences.
Wow.
And 40% of people will post online after just 1 bad experience. So it's really tough to keep organisations, to keep customers.
And this is one of those things, like, you know, absolutely, we can go and look at PhDs and data scientists to go across, you know, what's in my call centre, what's in my log, or can we make it really easy for that sales rep who owns that relationship to be able to visibility, things like CSAT, things like our Service Cloud Drive, so that when I look at an account, I don't have to get that surprise phone call, because like you said, 3 visits, you lose a customer, and if that's a major customer, but if you know that information, if you have all that data and it's surfaced, that's where Wave is really helping people, because it actually enables people to access that data and make it actionable, so you don't have these gaps where we don't know what's going on. Absolutely, as we start to look to more factors, we can roll that data up and from a top-down view, make it easier to explore that information too.
So we have another question. So I guess especially with it embedded within the account or the opportunity object, I mean, how does this compare to existing Salesforce reports and dashboards? Is this essentially just a better looking visualization of reports and dashboards? Or is this a different tool altogether?
So as we've seen today, and this is where we go through this demo, people see it and go, we make it so seamless as part of Salesforce because it is part of the core. Don't forget, Salesforce reports and dashboards are incredibly powerful and very important to getting visualization. They have awesome things. But if you think about the demo flow I did today, to look at the entire history of an entire account and all time and drill into it instantly while I might be on a telephone call with a customer, you can't do that in reports and dashboards. You're going to be in one dashboard, into another, drill into a report, and because it's a relational database behind this, and this is true of any relational database that you have out there where it's about the transactions, then I have to go drill in, drill in, drill in. So now I've spent, maybe I've spent 10 minutes, maybe I spent 15 minutes on it. Why can't I have that data at the touch of the button? That's what a columnar store data store does, because we can take the data from Salesforce, bring it every sort of hour into there, bring external data sources, bring them together, and now I'm not just looking at just this one thing, which reports and dashboards do really well. Now I'm looking a lot wider. Now I have that visibility to slice and dice in a way that I've never been able to do with, at a speed that actually means I'm going to do it. Right. Because as the stats saw at the beginning of this, 60% of people, yes, you can drill into reports today, but you'll be amazed, 50% of people you're lost as soon as they have to click that button. The next one, I need to change that report and I need to go and drag another field in. I lose another 50%. Now I'm down to 20%. Guess what? Now I'm just down to the reports analyst and the guy that's going to cost and wrap it up. So yeah, that's really where we see Wave. It's about how do we empower everyone to not even know they're using a BI tool. That's how simple it is.
And is there any difference between whether a customer has Classic or Lightning in how they use Wave?
Absolutely not. I keep touching on this, but we've got to remember Wave is core to Salesforce. It's not a separate integration that's in there, so that means it's available in Classic, it's available with Console and the Service Cloud customers that use that UI, it's available in Lightning. What we saw today, which makes it really exciting in Lightning, and you can also do this in the console, is I can have tabs. So now I'm not just limited to where with Classic I can only embed one dashboard on a page layout, I can embed 3, 4, 2. I can have different context around it. So yeah, it's just really about the UI experience. Wave works in every version and SKU of Salesforce seamlessly.
Well, I think we need to leave it there and wrap it up. There were some other questions that were posed, and I'm sorry we didn't get to all of them. We will get back to you post the webinar. If you do have specific further questions, if you're an existing Salesforce customer, please don't hesitate to reach out to your account executive. If you are not a Salesforce customer, just leave a note here in the chat area, and we'll be happy to contact you as well. But Mike, Martin, and I are all available on LinkedIn, so please feel free to connect with us to discuss anything further. Thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it. Really appreciate how attentive you were and the great questions that came through. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you.